What's up everyone, it's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and this video is going to really have three main points that I want to talk about. The first is a complete positive thing. So we all know that a few days ago, or at some point last week, that it was rumored that the Sonic Mania launch date was leaked through Steam. It briefly showed up as August 15th and then it was quickly changed back to, I think it just said summer. And now Sega have actually come out with a new trailer, a badass new trailer, which I'll have linked in the description below because it's just such a cool trailer. I really suggest you check it out if you're interested in Sonic or Sonic Mania at all. And they have confirmed that every platform that will be receiving the game receives it on the same date, as well as this is now the official launch date of August 15th. They've also said as a download edition for $20 US or 26 Canadian dollars. And while Xbox One, PS4 and PC digital downloads are available for pre-order now, the Switch version is not available for pre-order just yet because Nintendo and online do strange things. But it is confirmed to launch on the same day as the other version. So Switch will launch on August 15th, which the other ones will also launch on. So that brings me to another bit of an issue. Also, real quick, I'll just throw in the fact that there's no mention of a standard physical release for this. We all know there's an existing collector's edition, which factors into the two more things I want to talk about. And also, real quick, for those of you who don't know about the Sonic Mania Collector's Edition, what it comes in is a deluxe collector's box, which is similar and designed in style to look a bit like a Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis box, depending on where you live. It also comes with a 12-inch statue of Sonic the Hedgehog standing on a Mega Drive/Genesis, which actually comes with the Sega boot-up, startup audio sound, which is kind of cool. Comes with a metallic collector's card, which has the download code in it as well, because this does not come with a physical version of the game in the collector's edition. It's downloaded digital only. And it comes with a Sega cartridge case that you can open up. It's like a fake cartridge box, essentially, that you can open up, and comes with a golden ring, which is obviously associated with Sonic, just like a coin is with Mario. So you get the point of everything that's actually included with it as well. So the fact that this game is going to launch for $20, we'll go on the assumption that US dollars are the base dollars we're working with. It's going to launch for $20, which is probably going to be roughly €20. The dollar and the euro are very similar, close enough basically, especially when it comes to changing or leaving out, say, Canadian dollars and UK pounds out of the equation. So generally stuff will launch at $300 is €300, things like that. So it's usually close enough to the same thing. And that brings me to the next issue we have, which is the Sonic Mania Collector's Edition. Now, the Sonic Mania Collector's Edition was announced last year before the game even had a release date or a price. Now, the big issue was, firstly, it was only launched for the US, and it was launched for Europe several months later. So because it was launched for the US, at first it was retailing for $60, $59.99 in US dollars on places like Amazon and things like that. Recently, the price has increased to $69.99, which is, sure, it's a $10 increase. It's not a small amount. I realize there's Prime discounts and all that kind of thing, but overall the base price seems to be $69.99. So realistically, launch price, or when the pre-orders first went up for the Sonic Mania Collector's Edition, it should have been about €60 as well. Now, the thing about it being €60 is it wasn't announced for Europe at the same time. It was announced a couple of months later, I think it was. But either way, it should have been about €60. However, that wasn't the case. When it did become available in Europe to pre-order, the official price on the Sonic Mania Collector's Edition is £80. Now, by comparison, not only is it not £60, so first off, €60 would not equal £60. $60 would not equal £60. It would be considerably less. €60 or $60 would probably get you somewhere around the realm of £45, give or take. So the fact that it did not even register for £60, let alone €60, it launched from official sources at £80. £80. That's 90 something euro. Now, because of how Amazon.co.uk works and the fact that I live in Ireland instead of the UK, the prices displayed for me are slightly lower because of the tax reasons and all that don't get reflected until I actually order it. So it's £82 for me, which is €94 for the Sonic Mania Collector's Edition, as sold from Amazon on their cheapest price since the day it went up for pre-order. Because we all know Amazon have their pre-order guarantee, so this is still the lowest price it's had since official launch. So it really goes to show how the absolute disparity in the European versions versus the American versions. And this has happened before in some other aspects as well. The most notable one, and the most notorious one in my opinion, and from what I remember in history, is the old Final Fantasy XIV expansion Heavensward Collector's Edition. For the simple reason it was $129, €129, which is expected, but it was also £129, which is almost, I won't say almost double, but it's probably an extra 50 or 60% of what the price should have been. So that was pretty bad. Now that was from Square Enix, of course. This is from Sega, but it's just a point of disparity in different regions. And a lot of the time, you can quote, tax and shipping and all. If that was the case, stuff would never release in half of the world, because if it costs that much to actually get them across and all, it just wouldn't be viable, because every collector's edition would be €200. It's just ridiculous. And companies that do that, it just screams of greed to me. Which brings me to the final part of the video and the final point I actually wanted to make, which was overpriced collector's editions. Now, many collector's editions are overpriced, generally based on what you get for them. But as fans, we want to own something like that, or we want to support a publisher or developer or a game series or whatever it is, or we just want some of the cool stuff that actually comes with it, or that we want the game and we like the game or the franchise enough that we want a collector's edition version of it. So there have been a couple of reasons, or a couple of instances I should say, that people, including myself, have been severely burned by. Now, there's two ways you can be burned by a collector's edition, if you ask me. One of them is not so much because of a collector's edition, but you may buy a collector's edition of a game which turns out to be absolute shite, and that you just regret buying in general, let alone spending the extra money on a collector's edition. I think off the top of my head, I only have one of these games basically in my memory at all, and that game is Watch Dogs. Now, at the time, I had sworn off Ubisoft games. I hadn't been buying Ubisoft games for several years in any way, shape or form, and I just don't give Ubisoft money. It's that simple. However, we all know how big the Watch Dogs hype was before release, and I actually broke my own credo, or whatever you want to call it, my own rule for not buying Ubisoft games for Watch Dogs. And I bought the collector's edition, or I think it was called the DedSec edition. It's the big one with the statue and all the weird crap and all in it. And of course, we all know how the game turned out to be crap. Now, the collector's edition content didn't feel like a waste. It didn't feel like it was, more overpriced than usual overpriced collector's editions are. But it just really soured my taste based on the actual game. So that's the only way it comes into it from that aspect. But then there's other ones that I didn't feel cheated on or ripped off because of the quality of the game. Actually, that's not true. Now, I almost forgot about it. There's one other game that I can think of that I bought an even more over-the-top expensive collector's edition that already felt like a rip-off and felt too expensive. And then the game turned out to be fucking shit as well. This game was Destiny. I bought the Ghost edition of Destiny, and it was absolute dire and absolute bollocks. I hate Destiny with a passion. It's so bad in every way. And of course, I have the big fucking stupid €220 Ghost edition of Destiny. So, shame on fucking me. Enough said. I can't blame anyone for that. It's my own problem, because I continued with the order on that game when I had even played the beta several months beforehand and realized how shit it actually was. So it's my own fault. But yeah, that brings us back to games that we relatively enjoyed, or really enjoy or whatever, but still feel hard done by the collector's edition. Even though we all know that they were a little bit more expensive and all, but they feel like a bit of a rip-off, no matter what the quality of the game is. I actually have a few of these in my own opinion as well. One of them, which will be strange to most people because the game was good and I really enjoyed the game and I put a decent amount of time into it, was the Grand Theft Auto 5 Collector's Edition back on the Xbox 360. So I got the big Collector's Edition. I think it was about 150, 160 euro, and it came with the game. I think it came with a couple of art prints, a couple of pieces of DLC, and it came with a Los Santos snapback cap. Now, in comparison to other brand snapback caps and just other made ones, the Los Santos one is generally poorer quality than standard snapback caps. Now, I don't really wear snapbacks. I mostly wear fitted caps whenever I do wear them, but it was lower quality than a standard snapback cap. And despite only getting, I think it was 1 or 2 extra art prints and the cap and a little bit of DLC, you're basically paying an extra almost 100 euro. Now, games back then are about 75, 80 euro as it was for something like that. So realistically, you're paying double the price of the base game for what is only like arguably negligible. So believe it or not, I actually felt really hard done by from the GTA 5 Collector's Edition. The next one I mentioned and basically felt hard done by was one I've already mentioned in this video, which is the Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward expansion. Now, I got the Collector's Edition for that, which was an issue and a half within itself, because we all know, I made several videos on it back in the day with how much of a cock-up that pre-order release was. But that one was about 130 euro, and that's for an expansion of a game, which didn't include the base game, and included 1 or 2 other small extras, including what they were called, I think it was artisan crafted dragon statue. And when you get the dragon statue, it's tiny, it's cheap, and it's plastic. It was such a rip-off and so misrepresented that I felt hard done by that one. There's no doubt about it. One more of real note that I'm going to mention, but before I get to that one and then we end the video, is I'm going to give a kind of a special honourable mention to one other one as well. The Deus Ex Human Revolution Collector's Edition. Now, the reason why this one only gets a special mention is because the game was great. The game was fantastic. And the Collector's Edition was only a minor price increase. I think it was only maybe like 15 or 20 euro more expensive. But what you got in it, there was a couple of extra small things and an Adam Jensen figure. Now, I was expecting like maybe a statue, a little quality statue, but it was actually a small kind of cheap action figure, which it looked and felt cheap, and I would have liked even something as a small non-posable statue of roughly the same size. Even if it was the same quality, I would have enjoyed it a bit more, and that's why I kind of give that one a pass, just because the game was great and the extra expense wasn't really too much. But the biggest offender, the absolute biggest offender on my list, this one absolutely devastated me. I was so mad for such a long time over this one. I probably technically still am, if you look at it that way. It's a game that I didn't plan on buying originally. And I didn't buy originally. And I only bought it multiple months later. And when I say multiple, I'm talking maybe like a year plus later. And I only did it because gaming was in such a bad state where there was like nothing to play for a good 4 or 5 months. So I just said, fuck it, I'll buy it. And I paid full whack for it. I paid full price. I couldn't believe it. That game is Gears of War Judgment Kilo Squad Edition. Now, Gears of War Judgment in general did not appeal to me because I knew it didn't look as good, and I knew it wasn't made by Epic Games. It was made by People Can Fly, who haven't got the greatest history at this point. So I skipped it. Then about over a year later, one day I was in GameStop. I was extremely bored, looking for stuff to buy just because I had nothing to play, nothing new to play at least anyway. And I saw the Gears of War Judgment Kilo Squad Edition. They had 1 or 2 left over just sitting there in GameStop. And I just said, fuck it, you know what, I'm going to pick it up. Now, it was full price. It was 90 euro. 90 euro, okay? Now, that's not too bad, considering the game was about 65, 70 euro at the time anyway. So it was 90 euro for the Collector's Edition. Now, here's where it really got me, okay? Because I've already mentioned it, if you've ever seen the Grand Theft Auto 5 Collector's Edition box, it's a big box. It's probably like a foot high, maybe a little bit more. And it's a pretty big box in general. The Gears of War Judgment Kilo Squad Edition is a similar shape box, but it's actually bigger. It's a little bit bigger than what's actually the GTA 5 one. So that was even more promising. I couldn't wait to see what was in it and all that stuff. Then he put it in the bag. The manager at the time put it in the bag. He gave me the bag and with the game, and I walked out. And before I walked out, as soon as he handed me the bag, I noticed how light it was. And I just said to him, I was like, are you sure it's in here? It's not a display box or something? He goes, no, that's definitely it. They're all like that. It's still fully sealed. I looked down, it was still fully sealed. And I thought it was a bit strange. So I get home anyway, I go to take it out and whatever. So I opened this huge collector's edition box. Bigger than the GTA 5 collector's edition box. So if you do have that, use that as reference. It's the same shape, but it's bigger. So I opened this. Inside it, in the center, to keep the box from falling apart, because there's basically nothing in the box, and to keep everything from rattling around and all that in the box, the only thing, okay, there was a giant cardboard H, the letter H. It was the size of the box to prevent the box from like crumpling in on itself and just like folding up because there was nothing in there. And I depends on where you live, but it's either called like cling film or cellophane or saran wrap. Again, it's all the same thing. Depends on where you live in the world. The game was taped to the cardboard, the center of the cardboard, and beside it there's a tiny little action figure, a Damon Baird action figure in an extremely small box. The action figure is about 6 inches tall, so the box was about 7 inches in length. And that was cellophane wrapped to the middle cardboard holder as well. I could not believe it. Absolutely could not believe it. They had this huge box, this absolutely crazy size box, for a standard Xbox 360 game case and a little small action figure box that was smaller than a game case. Could not believe it. I was absolutely devastated so much because I felt hard done by it. I felt ripped off because I'd looked at it on the back of the box. I'd looked at it on the back of the display box that he showed me, and it looked, because it was when he showed me the one that was in the store, it was empty. It was just a full-on display box. It was just completely empty. And I looked at the back of it, like, Damon Baird action figure. I'm like, okay, I don't really care that it's an action figure, but it's probably going to be like this size or relatively big, because I'd already got the Gears of War 3 Epic Edition. So I knew from the relative size of the box, it's like, okay, this could be, something similar to my Gears of War 3 Marcus statue. Oh, how wrong was I? And because I was misled and all by that, I just felt so hard done by it. When realistically, it was only maybe about €20 more expensive, 20 to €25 more expensive than the actual standard version of the game. But here's the thing. Eventually, GameStop started selling that particular Damon Baird figure on its own, and about another year later. Now, they didn't even stock them at the time, but they got them in and they started selling them for €5 by itself. So realistically, let's call it €75 for the game, €5 for the little figure. How hard done by did I felt. And the only thing that makes it even worse is when I bought that Gears of War Judgment Collector's Edition, or Kilo Squad Edition, I don't know if there was a standard Collector's Edition. I bought it over a year after its original launch. At that point, I was pretty much expecting there to be no price drop or no price decrease, because if it hadn't happened by then, probably hasn't happened. About a month later, I walk into GameStop. That €90 collector's edition I bought, €30 on sale. And when I say on sale, it was one of the things that was permanently marked down on sale to move, because they just had loads of them left over that they never sold and never thought they would sell. So you can imagine how hard done by I felt after the whole situation. And I'm always wary about collector's editions nowadays, especially more so ever since that happened, really. The Gears of War Judgment was the straw that broke the camel's back, essentially. And I've been done like hard on one or two things. I'm pretty sure Grand Theft Auto 5 launched after that, and yeah, that pretty much killed me. Heavensward launched after that, and that one screwed me as well. But then again, it's not all negatives. There's always great collector's editions, like the StarCraft 2 collector's editions, Diablo 3, and the expansion for it as well. Persona 5's Take Your Heart edition. You get my point. Sonic Mania looks like it's going to be in one of those bad ones, unfortunately. So we'll see how it goes. There's still a couple of months for it to actually come out and something to change. But it's not looking promising. So let me know in the comment section below what your opinion on the whole thing to do with the collector's edition of Sonic Mania being so expensive, so ridiculously expensive versus what you get in it, and the fact that it's even more expensive if you live on this side of the world. It's a bit crazy. Have you ever been burned by a collector's edition as well, or do you feel like you've ever been ripped off or, you know, completely done by an overpriced collector's edition that you regret or wish you hadn't paid for, or whatever it is? Let me know all of that anyway in the comments section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter, details in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the rest of the videos in my channel.